All right. Well, good morning. Welcome to the Expo. I want to thank Don and Dan that put on this show. Thank you for braving the cold weather. I want to thank a very special thank you to my wife, Kathy. Will be 40 years next year, putting up with my fishing habits and all that. Special thanks to my son, Aaron. He does all my social media, so if you're watching us on Facebook, TikTok, he's the guy. He actually knows what the hell he is doing with that stuff. He's actually started his own business, Watch Williams Media. So if you need social media done, he's the guy to talk to. So Don asked me if I would come up and do some fishing hacks. I said, what the hell's a fishing hack? I didn't know. He says, well, show me something that you do different that nobody else does. I said, well, here's something simple. This is one of my favorite rods from HT. Paper chip clips. You put your chip clip here, and this protects your lure that's going to sit in your bag. So you don't have any messes or nothing like that. You know, for $1, it's a simple to use, and every dollar store's got chip clips. So I guess that's a fishing hack, if you want to call that. So there's that. Next one. Okay. I have the wind jigger that we sell for HT. This has been out for, I would say, 15 years. This is our #1 selling rod holder. The whole purpose is to put it on the ice so when the wind blows, it's going to move your pole up and down. So my tip to you to make this work better, you take old playing cards. They're junk anyways. Okay, you cut the card in half, you put a slice on top, slice on the bottom here, and now when this sits there, the wind's going to blow it around. It's going to jig your rod all day long. But the tip is you have to hook your minnow under the jaw, because now he does this in the water. If you hook him in the back, it's too much drag. It won't bounce, okay? So I guess if you want to call that a hack, it can be a hack. What's nice about this, it collapses down. Come on, there you go. Fits in your bucket. These are $25. He's only got a few left over there. So the wind jigger. If anybody has questions,
I'm going to hand it around.
Okay, if you have any questions, just pop your hand up. I'll try to answer as best I can because I want to be informative. I want to be interacting with you guys if I can. I want you to come home safely from ice fishing too. But
Question.
yeah.
It doesn't matter what kind of weight you got there, even just a small jig will still.
Oh yeah. Yep. And most of the time, I use a bear hook with a 1/16 to an 1/8 ounce split shot. Or sometimes I'll just use a lead head jig. Yes, sir.
Hole freezing up with one of those.
Okay. I've been using the aerator from HT that has a solar panel on it. Okay. I heard they're out of stock already. So it's an AC charged battery already. When you bring it out into the sunlight, it charges all day long. So I have an aerator running the water all the time so it doesn't freeze up. So that's one way of doing it. Then we have hole covers. You can put the hole covers on top of it also. The other thing on the wind jigger, I use ice stakes through here, or new models have an eye bolt back here. Because I told them, I said, we need an eye bolt back here because when I get a fish on, I can move it away like this from the hole so it's not in my way when I'm catching a fish. So I use a lot of ice staking for tents and sometimes the the wind jigger. So I keep saying rattle wind jigger. Well, that's my next invention here. I designed this because I needed to have an ice fishing product to come up with something. I've designed 8 things already for summer fishing. I have my own trolling rods, my own rattling wasp. I have the planer board lights, and I have the Magnet-Go system. So I says, okay, how can I make this very versatile for a person that doesn't want to spend a lot of money? So I says, let's take the #1 selling rod holder and turn it into a rattling wind jigger. So we got a rattle here. Minnesota people love rattle wheels in their fish houses, so that's why I got the eye bolt on there. Now I can hang that in my ice shanty. So it bounces up and down. It's got the rattle. I got a safety pin here just so it doesn't fall out. Then if you want to take this off completely, you can go right back to the wind jigger if you need to. So this is $25 with the wind jigger, and this will be between $25 and $30 if we come out with it next year. So I finally invented something for ice fishing, because I've always said ice fishermen are the best inventors of gadgets. When you walk through here, them are all gadgets that somebody thought of and got into production to make. Okay, so this is another inventor that came to HT, and he presented to Kenny, the owner, and the way he came up with it, he was tired of using tip-ups. He says, how can I make a tip-up system but with my jig rod? And this is what he came up. It's called the ice rigger. So when the fish pulls this down, it sets the flag. It's not an automatic hook setting device. It's just a plain tip-up for a rod. It does not set the hook. So this was legal over in Minnesota. This was not legal in Minnesota last year. But this year, they legalized it. HT had 7,000 striker pros in their warehouse September. When the law cleared in October, they were gone in 2 weeks. We only had 24 pieces for St. Paul. He had 36 of them to date for this show. He's down to 4 already. This is $40, and this I think was like $28. So I use all these products. I try to test them out as best I can for HT, because we want to make sure when you buy this product, it's ready to go. There's no messing around or anything like that. So what I have here is the Striker Pro, and this one is all set up and ready to go for my brown trout and steelhead in Milwaukee Harbor. I don't know if you can barely see it, but that's the size hook we use down there with a spawn sack. So this little bobber here, we put special juice in it from the automatic fisherman, Kerry Paulson, and we pour that in there so the bobber freezes, and now the line can pass through the bobber. We're going to change it a little different for the mechanism for tripping. I'll show you the mechanism right here. So this would be like a full setting, they're very strong. They also have a thumb screw here to set the tension. You can also loosen it up a little bit like that. The line goes here, and that's what trips it. So the little bobbers that we give for you to put up here break. They're not any good. So I said, well, I'm going to use 30-pound mono yellow line. It's getting harder to see things when you get older, right? So that's why I went with yellow. So I'm going to set this up here. Yep, come in. There we go. Okay. So I got that set at full power. So this bobber's in the water. Right here's the hole. So when this flares up, that's what's going to hook the fish. They didn't like these in Minnesota because it said, oh, it hurts the fish. Well, the whole purpose is to hook the fish light as possible, so in case you had to release the fish, you could do that. Most tip-ups, these fish are going to inhale that minnow, crawler, whatever you're using, and it's going to hurt the fish. So I'm happy that they went with this system, so it makes it a lot better and good for sales for us. This pole is actually from Kerry Paulson, the automatic fisherman. He's pretty much the godfather of the hook setting device. And he's let me use his rods to try out because he knows the rods. He fishes trout, salmon a lot. And he's got the right lengths. This is a 36-inch. You can go up to 40-inch. And that's what's nice about the Striker Pro. It's all adjustable for what rod you got. I would recommend medium. Medium light would be pushing it, but now it's all going to bear on what are you going to fish for. Walleyes, perch, crappie. Crappie would be kind of bad because they got very thin lips and that. So I will be using this for walleyes, white bass, and perch on Lake Winnebago for sure. So that's the Striker Pro, and go see Kerry Paulson at the Automatic Fisherman. Yes, sir.
This sounds like a stupid question, but how come you're not using the aerator on that, you're using a liquid bomb?
Oh, I will. I got 6 aerators right in my house.
Why would you do something different for that?
Well, that's what they first came out with. You know, the automatic fisherman's got to be 15, 20 years old already. You know, but as technology grows, we go. I remember when I started as a kid, I had a bucket, ice pick, and a rod that you had to wrap the line around. And the time I got done chiseling, it was a funnel. You know, technology is great when it works. But great question.
But, one last question. What temperatures does the aerator work down to? Like on a day like today?
I've had it at 0 for sure. And we got plenty of sun and light that helps, but you got to make sure that is charged up before you go out there, because that's the worst thing that's gets cold on batteries. And everybody asked, when I was testing my Firefly painter board lights, I said, well, how long does the battery last? And that's the first thing it says. Cold is the worst thing on batteries, okay? So I took this system, my Firefly, I threw it in my freezer. It lasted 52 days on in the freezer. I said, okay, I got a great product. So I put 200 hours on the package. Well, now I found out guys are buying these for tip-ups. The guy says, well, it stays on all the time. I said, well, guess what? You got snowmobilers out there, at least they can see it. There's all these ones that come, when the tip-up goes up, the light comes on. The snowmobilers can't see that. So they're gonna maybe run over it. And you don't need to put this out 200 yards. I am not running 200 yards, tell you the truth. I'm built for comfort, not speed anymore. All right, what else we got here?
The Nordic shelters.
Oh, okay, Nordic Shelters, we just got involved with them a couple years ago. They're kind of branching off from HT. So if you're looking for a shelter, please check out these guys. 2 years ago, we had bad ice for sturgeon spearing. So Aaron and I had their biggest double hub. So I had a hole that was 40 inches wide by 12 feet long. Normally, in sturgeon spearing, you can have up to 40 square feet. So we had about 38 square feet. It was like a big screen TV that we were looking down for watching for sturgeon. We got a lot of great comments on that kind of stuff, and it was warm. I use heat hogs now, because I like about a heat hog, it actually tilts up. The buddies are good, but the problem is you keep them on ice, the buddy heater melts the ice for you. By having a heat hog, by tilting it up, it's actually shooting the hot air upwards. So that's who I use as heat hog.
A UTV now.
Okay, got a picture of that? Oh, there we go. I'll get out of the way. So, I got kind of recognized a couple years ago when I bought my UTV. Well, this is my second one. The first one went in the water. So, I says, I got a 3/4 ton truck. Winnebago does not get very thick ice anymore, it seems like. So we bought the Can-Am model, and I said, I want to make a tuber out of it. Winnebago is known for tubers with cars and trucks. A lot of guys, I even knew a guy that bought a brand new truck and put a hole in it. So I started putting a hole in here, and all of a sudden my wife sees what I'm doing, and she goes, oh my, I was ready, she was going to divorce me. I says, honey, it's just a hole so I can go fishing. I said, if I go down, it's a big drain plug. But there was no structure members in the way, so I didn't have to cut that. I just had to cut the plastic ring inside there. So this is my catch cam, or catch cover. And you have to buy a 19-inch tube, and you get the cover. So what I did is I got this, it goes flush into the floor, but I want to make sure that it hits the ice. So the rest of it, I cut a slit in it, so now I put it in here. Now it's going to fit right to wherever the ice is sitting at. So I'll drive to a spot, I'll take my E-drill auger, I'll drill the hole in there, slush it out. This year I'm going to be running my live scope in here also. And I got the Garmin and I got Lowrance, but I'll have the Garmin in the UTV. And this is going to be my running and gunning buggy out there. I'll mark fish, I'll fish. If I don't mark fish, I move. So that's what I'm going to keep doing out there. So this is my catch cover. I'm not sponsoring anybody, those guys, but everybody's asking me, how did you do it and why did you do it? I had a guy come up to me yesterday. He says, yeah, it cost me $30,000 for my UTV and I want to put a hole in it. My wife won't let me do it. Where's your wife? I want to talk to her. So she comes over. I said, okay, ma'am, He's going to be fishing in there. If he goes down, it doesn't matter if you got another hole in it or not, right? So let him fish.
Talk about your lights.
Oh yeah, cap lights. This is an LED light, and it has 4 modes. You got bright, dim. That one I use in the ice house because if you're using monoline, it glows so you can see it better. Then you have emergency beacon. They're LED and a USB charge. The way I promote them by selling them, it's a cheap car flashlight. You got them plugged in all the time. They're usually nice on the caps. They're out of the way, all that good stuff. So Extreme Tackle sells all our HT products. They're over there. And it's a good light, period. All right, I got to talk about the tip down there. All right, here's the story. Everything I do has a story. I'm sorry. This guy got a hold of me on the internet last year, and he wanted me to help him with a tip down. I said, well, I'm not very familiar with tip downs, but it is a trending thing in ice fishing, okay? I says, well, what makes yours different than anybody else's? So he sends me the video, talks about it, and what really intrigued me about There's One, I said, what the hell kind of a name is that, There's One? And he says, you can use any rod that you got in your arsenal already. I said, now you got me hooked, because most tip downs come with a certain rod and reel, which I prefer not to use. I'd rather use a spin cast like this. So I show up to his house. He lives in Menominee, Wisconsin. He's kind of like a semi-engineer and fabricator up there. And he designed this thing 12 years ago. And he says, well, what do you think? Kind of redneck. He says, what? I said, well, you got cable clamps, you got a pole hanging out of it and all that. I said, how the hell do you fish and hold it? He said, well, you just pull it out like this and catch them. I said, you ain't going to sell that. So I sat up there for 3 days working with him. He's really good on the CAD, 3D printer and all that kind of stuff. So we changed the cradle system, and we made it a lot more efficient to pull this out of the holder. And what's unique about this, and it's a great feature, now you can set the fulcrum point right here. This all slides back and forth to whatever rod you got. You have to find that sweet spot to make it work. And it's very sensitive when it pulls down like this. We went crappie fishing and we had a ball with that. I'm fat and old, I don't need to bend over anymore. Now you can just grab this thing and just pull and play with the fish. So his name is Mark. His wife's over there, Melissa. There's One tip down. It's all made in Menominee, Wisconsin, which is awesome. He's a cheddarhead just like all of us. And please check him out. Ask him about the redneck one. He'll show you. He'll talk to you about it. And I think you're going to enjoy it. So after looking at it and making it and playing with it, I says, I got another invention for you. What's that? I says, I want to sell this thing in ice fishing houses, especially in Minnesota. They love rattle wheels. I says, let's make a rod system. So he goes out in his shop, cuts a couple parts, he brings them out. So he attached something like this to what he's got. So now we got it perfected. So you bolt this onto your wall. There's a pull pin that just the bracket sits on the wall. So you can take it off completely if you want. And what's nice about it, it'll actually pivot wherever you want that to go. And it's made left or right reeling. So I said, now you're going to have a winner there. So he's got those there too. If you have an ice house that you want to permanently put one in your shack, the only downside is this has to be dedicated to a rod and reel. Okay, so you might have to go out buy more rods and reels. Oh hell, my wife accessorizes on shoes and purses. Why not more rod and reels, right? So, like I said, we're getting to be, he just can't thank me enough for getting him over here and putting these out. And the first question he says, well, how many I make? I said, you better make at least make 1,000 of them. 1,000? I said, well, we did videos. He was all excited to put that video. I said, no, we can't do that. We got to do it when we get to the ice show a couple weeks ahead of time to get people energized and all about it. as soon as we put that first one out, he had orders going off the shelf. It was unbelievable. So he's running low now. He'll be here the rest of the day. I will be having a bunch at my house in case people see it here. They can come to me and buy it through him and that. So I just live south of Oshkosh. I've lived all my life in Oshkosh except for 1 year. My first year was in Jackson, Michigan Fire Department. So we were there in 1980 to 89. Then I was hired up in the Appleton Fire Department. So I put 28 years up there. So being a firefighter, I did a lot of training and water rescue stuff. So this is a 50-foot rescue throw bag, and we use this on the fire department. The policemen have it in their cars. It's our first line of defense to get something out to somebody that's in the water. When I teach fire rescue water, I tell the people is you're going to be freaked out when you get in there. You got to calm down, get your thoughts, and if you can kick your feet and claw your way up there to get out, if you get out, roll in the snow. That snow is going to absorb the water that you got on your suit. Float suits are good, ice picks are good, but if you've never done it, you'll be scared shitless. Trust me. I was trained in dry suits. My first person that I had to rescue almost drowned me, so we were taught to flip that person around and just bear hug them and squeeze them so they can't move. I'm going to rescue you. Calm down. Just wait. So if you don't have anybody out there, you're sitting in the ice, put your arms on the ice like this. Freeze in. If you freeze in, we can chisel you out. If you're going down, I can't get you down there. So always travel with a buddy. Put your cell phone in a Ziploc bag. Tell people where you're going to go off of and when you're coming home. That helps us as first responders to get some information where you could be or when you're supposed to be home and all that. So with the rescue throw bag, I have one in my boat. I actually towed a boat in one day with it. And I have one on the UTV. So we got a regular loop. So now I want to make a cinch knot. So you slide there through the loop. And now I'm going to put this on my wrist. And there's my cinch knot. So you want to throw with the black strap. Okay, so this is 50 feet. Move the pole. There you go. So I'm going to deploy this. I'm going to hit the wall. That's my patient or person that's need rescuing. And we'll deploy it out. Okay, so that has a washer in it and a styrofoam piece in there. One's for weight and one's for flotation. So the biggest question I get from everybody is how do you put it back in? Very simple. Okay, now put this over your head and now you just pack it in. It's that simple. Just get it all in there. But if you use it and it's wet, make sure it's completely dry. It helps to be dry to throw the bag. If you're on a ATV, put this thing in a big Ziploc bag. You can't get it wet because you're out there blowing, snow's getting on it and all that, and it gets warmed up, it's going to melt, it's going to freeze. You'll never throw it if it's frozen. So keep it as dry as possible. So just pack it in like that, and you just cinch it back up, and then you're good to go. You can get these at extremetackle.com. They have them in stock there. All right, I'll talk about the E-drill. This has been out, I think, 5 years now. I swear by this. What I like about it, you got metal for a base, plastic here. This is aluminum. You got steel up here. There's 3 more holes for adjustment. You have a grease zerk because you can't have metal spinning on metal because it'll burn it up, seize it up, rust up. You won't have it. So the grease zerk is good. This is an 8-inch. We also make a 6-inch. So if I got the drill here, I got a handle. And everybody says, oh, you're pushing down. I says, no, you got to have a proper stance because when this thing locks up, you got torque. I use a DeWalt 20-volt brushless. Same with the Milwaukee's, 18-inch or 18-volt brushless. You got to have brushless, okay? Otherwise, you're going to freeze up your drills and that. So they always mock him. You should see his stance. He's like, oh, like that. I says, it's all you stand, but you want a good presence of stance to hold this thing, because once you punch through, it's going to go down. But also, when you're looking for an auger to buy, you want to make sure it has a center point. The center point's going to keep it straight. It's going to cut through to the bottom of the hole right away. The other ones are called shavers. It's like a hand drill. And once you start hand drilling you down there with a shaver, also you catch and break through, you have to back up and recut the hole because it doesn't cut it flush. This cuts it flush. So look for the ring and look for the center point if you're going to look for an auger. This retails for $180 from HT. Okay. There, you can set that over here.
Arctic Anchor.
Yep. So 2020, I went down with my UTV, and the reason we put this video out every year is to make people aware of what can happen out there. As Donnie Herman says from Sunk, the ice is never 100% safe. So I'm on the Lake of the Woods with Keith Tobias and his buddies. It's like our last day, and it was starting to get cold and blowing and all that kind of stuff. So I got in the buggy and got my GPS going, trying to find my track line back. So I started heading in, and it was, like I said, it was starting to blow, and I couldn't really see, so I stopped. And I seen a couple guys up there, so I thought, well, I better start heading towards those guys. Well, my front right tire fell through. Apparently, I was on frozen snow. That's not ice. So as soon as the tire went down, I threw the door open. Time I was getting out, the roof was on my back, sucking me down. I was only in 8 feet of water. If I ever go down with a UTV, I hope it's in deep water, because then I have a chance to swim up. By going there, I would have never got out if I was still in that UTV. I bought the UTV with soft-sided doors and zipper windows. Both windows were unzipped, but they stay up. And if I had to bail out, I would have been going out the window. In a a house fire, you always want 2 ways out. Well, with a unit like that, you don't have much way of getting out. So I was thinking about taking the back window off, their glass, get a plexiglass one, and line it with Velcro all the way around, because these are going to go down head first. So if I'm going down head first, I'm pushing that window out, and I can go up and out. So that was quite an experience. So like I say, every year we put that out. Oh, you went down again? No, we're just trying to make you aware of it. So what I learned there, I was very complacent. I was on 4 to 5 inches all week long, never had a problem until I found that one spot. That's like Donnie Herman says, the ice is never 100% safe. To me, the only safe ice is ice in a glass, unless you're in Mexico. So please be careful out there. Work with the buddy system, check ice reports, check with your local bait and tackle stores, your fishing clubs, that kind of stuff. And I did make a brochure for all the places where you get your bait and tackle, all the clubs, all the access points on Lake Winnebago here. But do some research before you go out there blind. That's not fun swimming in 32-degree water. So we're going to get back to this ice anchor thing. So I built a chunk of 4x4 by 18 inches for a log. So if I ever did go down with a UTV or stuck, I could use this. Well, I met this guy last year up in St. Paul called the Ice Anchor. I said, I'm getting this. This is awesome. So you got an orange strap at 20,000 pound rating. You got a little thin cable on there, so when you put it in the hole, you pull the cable up and it goes straight up. So you don't have to force it and work it. With mine, I had to use my chisel to turn the wood around and all that. You know, for $100, I said, I'm getting one of these. It just clips on like so. You drop it in. You cinch it up, and you just winch yourself out. Very easy tool to use. nice to use. You know, there again, another safety thing, but boy, if you ain't got something like that, you're screwed. Now you got to get somebody else there to help you in that. Okay? So, I'm going to tell you one of my hack secrets that I use on Winnebago, and everybody just laughs at me. My favorite bait out there, if I'm really struggling, I use night crawlers. Night crawlers, I say, yeah, I save them through the summer. I nurse them all winter long. I keep them in bedding, keep them fresh. Night crawlers are a natural bait. It's scent, and everybody buys scented stuff. Try night crawlers once. Just a little chunk on there. I forgot what year it was placed in a party on Poigan. I caught a nice walleye, and my buddy says, "What the hell are you using?" I said, "Night crawlers." He says, "Oh, give me some. I want to catch a walleye like that." But yeah, it's out of the norm. It's ice fishing. You know, you're using mousies, you're using wax worms. What else are out there? No, not leeches. That's too early. But anyways, just give it a try if you're struggling out there. A lot of times in the summertime, like 1 year, 2 years ago on Lake Erie, we've been trolling with bandits all day long. We couldn't get nothing. I said, I'm marking a lot of fish. Something's not going. So I took a half a night crawler, put it on the front treble hook of the bandit, and it was lights out. We limited it out every day just by adding that little chunk of meat on there. So, do you have any questions right now that I can try to help with? Nothing? Come on. Everybody's got something. Any questions about me or my travels or? Well, starting January, I'm taking my wife up to Wigwam Resort. That's in Lake of the Woods. So this time I'm going to get catered to since of me catering to someone else. So we're going to take her up there. We'll stay at the resort. They'll haul us out there. They'll have bait ready for us. They'll have the heat going and all that kind of stuff. So we'll probably be targeting walleyes and sauger and occasional perch and that. So we'll be there for 4 days. January 30th, my whole family and I are going down to Columbus, Ohio. They invited us to sell all my summer products down there, so I'll have a 30-foot booth. My son Aaron is going to be doing some speaking on social media. March, I'll be going down to Florida with Keith Gavaias, running his new boat down there, so we'll be doing, this year I'm going to target Goliath grouper. She's got one at 250 pounds, so I'm going to hopefully get my Goliath grouper. But 1 year my son was down there and he got about an 8-foot bull shark and he broke the rod. $600 rod I paid for. I thought, holy moly. Yeah, it just snapped the tip right off and he almost went in and he's just struggling with it. So it's always a good time to fish with Keith down there. March or April, I'm hoping maybe to be over to the Detroit River jigging over there. I got a couple guys that want to bring me over there. Then in June and July, I will be going to Alaska. I am actually going to go flossing for salmon in the Kenai River. So flossing is like using a fly rod. You throw it out and you pull real fast. The theory is when the fish are swimming, their mouth's going like this, so the line goes into their mouth. When you feel tension, you just set the hook. It's kind of like snagging, but it's like snagging in the mouth. So we're going to be up there doing that. And after that, I have no idea where I'm going to be. So I appreciate you guys coming here. Be very safe, careful. Merry Christmas, and have a good time today. Oh, question. Oh.
Okay, when you ice fish, do you do the same as summer fishing, like reefs, drop-offs, or trying to find walleye?
Great question. I sure wrote that. Most of the time, Aaron, you want to bring up that Winnebago map? A lot of times when you're fishing Winnebago, it's going to be out in the mud. That's like 14 feet to 18 feet of water. Lake Winnebago, at its maximum depth is 21 feet. That's usually in summertime. Wintertime is between 19 and 20. So when I'm out there, I'm in areas number 3 and 4. That's primary. But I live down by, go down to number 5. So I live down by Wentz area, so I launch out of there. Be very careful if you're going between the islands down there. Wentz has a great West Shore Fishing Club. They set trees straight out. They're every 1/10 of a mile. So the first mile will be 2 trees. If you see a tree laying on the road, that means it's a bad road. Don't go out there. But if you want to target burbot, eelpout, lawyers, that's the place to go. But remember, if there's no snow on that ice and there's been sun out there, the ice is melting from the bottom up. These rocks are heating up. We found that out last year. Him and I are out there checking stuff, and I said, I don't want to go any further. It doesn't seem right out there. So we put up the drone. Sure enough, it was all open water down there. A couple guys went in down there too. But the target fish, usually early ice and late ice for walleyes along the reefs. You can do that. Most of the time it's going to be all in the mud flats for me. I'm catching perch, white bass, and walleyes out there. An occasional lawyer, but most of the lawyers are spawning in February under the ice. And guess what? They use beer bottles for decoys. They actually come up there and nudge it to see what they think it's another lawyer. So it's kind of funny to see, and I've heard all about that.
There's a certain depth you like to go, like deeper, 20 foot.
Well, it depends on where the fish are. That's why I like this live scope stuff now. So if I can see the fish, there's a lot of times they're going to be close to bottom, but if they're coming off the bottom, they're going to be more active. I've already caught walleyes in 18 feet of water, 2 feet below the ice. They're up high doing something different. So if you've got a locator and you're not seeing that on the locator high, you might have to put a tip up out that's only 2-3 feet below the ice. Because remember, fish always look up to feed on, okay? Great question, thank you. You helped me remember some stuff. Anything else? Well, if you follow me on Facebook, give me a heart and share it. That helps the algorithms for us. I'm on TikTok, I'm on all social media stuff. I try to provide good content, informational content, some funny content. So be nice to everybody out there in the social media stuff, that we all get along. So help one another on the lake if you can. Appreciate it very much. Thank you.